So you live in Juhu, right?
Yeah. So we are live. Let me just recheck on Facebook. Good to start?
Yeah.
Just give me a moment. Yeah? Sorry to make you wait.
No problem.
Yeah, we are live on Facebook. I just had to recheck once, you know how it is. Anyways, a very warm welcome to you, sir, on our Social Table show. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Kalpana Chowdhary, founder of Social Tables and managing trustee and chairperson of Jan Seva Foundation, Being the Change, and Lagnn.com. Lagnn.com is a matrimony portal for differently able and acid attack survivors and cancer survivors. Also an active member at FICCI Flow, CIIIWN, Maharashtra, Women Economic Forum, TEDx speaker, ASSOCHAM chairman. Well, before diving into the guest introduction, I would like to take a moment to introduce you with Social Tables. Social Tables is committed to sustainable development program with societal well-being and environmental consciousness. Every week, we bring out to you some of the brightest minds from diverse sectors to discuss over a few significant ongoing issues. In this week's speaker series, we have our guest, Mr. Mani Rangarajan, who is the Group COO of the LR Group, the only full-stake real estate company in India. He heads sale, business development, monetization, marketing, operation, research, and data solution at the group, which has the largest online audience across all real estate companies portals in India. The group operates housing.com and makan.com, two of India's largest real estate portals, and Proptiger, one of India's leading channel partners. Money has extensive global experience in P&L management, monetization, operations, finance, and strategy in the internet and financial service sectors in over 25 countries in the Americas, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Money has held executive level roles in companies such as Citigroup, Yahoo, and with leading Silicon Valley startup companies including Boku, Cosmics, Claudria, and the Climate Corporation. He has also held advisory roles in several startups in India. Mani started his career with Citibank, where he acquired a strong expertise in operation and risk management and was considered a global expert in the transaction service business. Post Citibank, he joined Yahoo and worked closely with executive team on strategic planning, business operation, cooperation, finance investor relations, and data solution. For the past 7 years, Mani has been a part of the Silicon Valley startup community and was on the management team of startup with responsibilities across revenue, business development, monetization, operations, and finance, including fundraising and M&A. Mani holds an MBA from Stanford University Graduate School of Business, where he has an R.J. Miller Scholar. He is also PGDM from IIM Kolkata and a qualified cost and work accountant. A warm welcome to you on a today's speaker series, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's our most pleasure to have you here with us today. So in today's discussion, we are going to discuss about the future of residential real estate in India's post-COVID-19. So what, according to you, are the biggest challenges of the real estate industry right now?
Well, there are quite a few challenges, not only across the real estate industry, but across several industries as well. So we are in the midst of an unprecedented black swan event, which is probably the event of many of our lifetimes. And if you look at economies across the world, we are seeing a contraction in economic growth. In fact, the International Monetary Fund has said that the world economy is going to contract by about 4%. And we are likely to see a contraction in the Indian economy as well, right? So the first challenge that all of us are facing today in economies around the world is a lot of uncertainty. Because while the growth of the coronavirus pandemic seems to be restrained in some areas, I don't think we are out of the woods as yet. Uh, in fact, the virus seems to be growing, and while the possibility of a vaccine seems to be pretty promising, we are quite some ways from getting a vaccine in place. It's probably towards the end of the year or sometime early next year when we get a vaccine. Obviously, the challenge that all of us are facing is a lot of uncertainty, particularly on the economic front, where unemployment rates have been growing across the world, and the prospect of salary reductions is looming large for those who have jobs. In fact, I was reading somewhere that in India, the unemployment rate in early April was about 20%. But since then, there has been some decline in unemployment. So coming to the challenges of the real estate sector, we recently put out a report entitled The Real Insight, where we saw that launches and sales across the tier 1 cities, which include Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Pune, and also including Ahmedabad, we saw both new launches as well as sales decline by about 80%. So while online demand is pretty strong, and particularly on housing.com, we have seen that demand has actually increased to levels above pre-COVID levels. We are still seeing some challenges in both the new launches as well as sales across the country. This challenge is not restricted to the residential real estate sector alone. There are challenges in the commercial real estate sector as well. Normally in the commercial space, you tend to see absorption of about 40 to 45 million square feet. Both new launches as well as absorption has been very strong on the commercial side over the last few years. But this year we might see decline in both the new supply as well as absorption by about 15 to 30%. In fact, if you look at cities like Bangalore, there are a lot of companies that are relooking at the real estate need, and people are actually surrendering office space. So put it broadly, we are seeing challenges in demand of residential, commercial, as well as retail real estate across the country.
Rightly said, every industry has faced a major setback, and it will definitely take some time to bounce back. What kind of changes are you expecting on the business trend in post-COVID-19 world?
Well, I think COVID is going to change the way all of us live our day-to-day lives over the next few years, at least, if not permanently, right? For example, before the onset of COVID, we were kind of migrating to like a shared economy where people wanted to share, for example, office space. People wanted to share residences. We saw the emergence of a co-living sector. We saw the emergence of an on-demand economy where we had companies such as Ola and Uber and all of that, right? So while I think the long-term potential for some of them, particularly co-living, kind of remains intact, right? What we are likely to see is rapid growth of digitization across sectors. I think we live in a world today where we could potentially say if something can be automated, it will eventually get automated. So India is the second largest country in the world after China in terms of internet users. And data availability and data cost in India is the cheapest in the world. Right? So over the next few years, you're going to see a rapid penetration of internet in India. In fact, one of the Google studies has pointed out that 90% of the new internet users in India are going to be from the vernacular segment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Uh, so during the current COVID pandemic, we have seen a huge growth in online consumption around the world. In fact, I think online video consumption has increased by around 40%. And things are no different in the real estate sector. In fact, since the onset of the pandemic, initially we saw traffic levels on housing as well as Makan go down. But since then, we have seen strong growth in traffic on housing as well as Makan to levels above what we had seen in the pre-COVID timeframe. Uh, we have seen the entire real estate ecosystem, whether it's sellers or buyers, make use of the internet for search as well as discovery of the properties. In fact, I would go on to say that over 90% of all search and discovery in real estate, whether it's on buy or rent, happens through the internet today. We have also seen rapid adoption of products such as virtual tours, virtual reality, drone shoots, walkthroughs, and pretty sophisticated content products. We've also seen that a lot of consumers are willing to buy homes online through paying a booking amount, particularly when the products are those that have been marketed and developed by brand name players. So, in short, we are seeing the emergence of a digital economy, which will penetrate almost all sectors of the economy, and particularly in real estate.
Wow, exactly. I personally feel that there might be a rental reconsideration, price negotiation, and preferences for a particular size of property, but all of this would be on cases to case basis and cannot be put in a general rule, though, for real estate all over the country.
Right.
Well, so talking about digital campaign, virtual tours, does your organization have an existing campaign for promoting the real estate and its asset? Also, are you providing any schemes?
Well, we operate a marketplace on the housing and Makan side where we market projects and homes for developers, brokers, as well as owners. And on the Proptiger side, we operate one of India's largest brokerages, where we help developers sell new homes. During the onset of COVID, we did quite a few things. In fact, we are one of the pioneers in property technology in India, commonly called as PropTech. And I'm really proud that my manager and CEO and founder, Dhruv Agrawala, is probably one of the pioneers in India when it comes to digitization of real estate. So we were the first to launch several products in the market, which include like touch screens, virtual tours, drone shoots, virtual reality, augmented reality, and online booking platforms. So we have seen a rapid adoption of this during the current COVID pandemic. And in fact, on the Proptiger side, we have organized several webinars and online events. In fact, during some of the webinars, we have also organized live drone shoots, which have been well received by both developers as well as buyers. And as I mentioned to you, Kalpana, we have seen a number of buyers who have come and bought real estate online, during the current COVID period. And this is simply going to continue because, even after COVID, social distancing is here to stay. And we may see social distancing in place for the next 12 to 18 months, which means that buyers are not going to make as many site visits as before. And so people are willing to come online, do virtual site visits, and then potentially book a home online, particularly when it's launched by brand name players.
Wow, that is really good to know. Why? All right. So, how long do you think the industry will take to come back to its prime in India?
You're referring to the real estate sector?
Yes. Yes, real estate and in general, both.
That's I think it's going to take quite a bit of time for the economy to recover. So, there are various theories as to how the economy is going to recover. Well, there are some people who say that we are headed for a V-shaped recovery, meaning the economy will spiral downwards, and then the economy will recover really quickly. There are some economists who say that we are headed for uh, a W-shaped recovery, which means that the economy will recover. There are prospects of a second bout of lockdowns when the economy will again move downwards, and then we will again recover. I personally think that we are headed for a U-shaped recovery, where it is going to take a reasonable period of time, probably 12 to 18 months for the economy to recover. And I'm saying this because of a few reasons. So one is we were in the midst of an economic slowdown, right, when the COVID crisis took place. So in fact, the economy, I think in the third quarter of last fiscal year grew by only about like 4%,
Yes.
right? And considering that several sectors were already in a slowdown mode, when the COVID pandemic took place, right? Uh, so thereby recovery is going to take little while longer, given that we were not growing very fast, right, when the COVID episode kind of took place. Uh, the good thing that is working in our, which may work in our favor, is that we are headed for a normal monsoon. Probably, the weatherman is saying that we will likely see a good monsoon across several parts of the country, and given that we have a good size of the economy which is contributed by agriculture, the possibility of the agricultural sector coming back to normal and thereby reviving economic growth is going to be pretty high. Also, as you know, the government has announced like a 20 lakh crore stimulus package, which should also helps like several sectors revive. On the real estate sector, we are seeing something very interesting, right? So over the last few years, ever since the government introduced the Real Estate Regulatory Act, consumer confidence in the sector has grown, and there's been a lot of transparency in the sector. And developers have been focused on completing existing projects and delivering projects to consumers rather than simply launching new projects and leaving them half completed, right? So if you look at over the last 18 to 24 months, the sales of residential real estate in the country has exceeded new supply, which means that the inventory overhang or the unsold inventory in the country has come down. The second thing is that we are seeing that people are valuing their own homes more than ever, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So people are increasingly know that they're pretty much safe in their own home, and their home is the safest place to be in. In fact, in a recent consumer sentiment survey that we did on housing.com, where we surveyed about 3,000 home buyers, we found that home buyers were cautious, but they remained optimistic. About 50% of home buyers said that they would buy a home in the next 6 months. Another 30% said that they would buy in the next 12 months, meaning from the period of 6 months to 12 months. And only about 20% of home buyers had put their home purchases on hold, which means that there is still some demand in the real estate sector. The second is that
sorry to interrupt. Is this your internal research which is saying, or it's a government?
This is our internal research where we have surveyed home buyers on
All
housing.com.
right.
The other thing which was interesting is that uh, about 35% of people said that real estate is the best investment option, right? Followed by gold and then followed by stock. And as you know, Kalpana, both gold and stock have been subject to severe volatility at this point in time.
Yes, sir.
So home buyers are pretty optimistic in terms of real estate as a sector. So real estate has not significantly appreciated over the last few years. In fact, the rate of price appreciation in real estate in several cities, with the exception of Ahmedabad and Hyderabad, has in fact been lower than the consumer price index, right? But at the same time, there's not been a very significant erosion in value, right? So the value of real estate has not gone down. The other thing is that home loans are now at almost like a 15-year low. And I think State Bank of India's home loan rate is about 6.9%. And if I believe the Union Bank of India has come out with about a 6.7% home loan interest rate. So considering all of that, and also considering the fact that people value their own homes as a safe place to be, we may well see a revival in real estate over the next couple of quarters.
Good to know, sir. I hope the industry revives back soon. All right. So, do you think invocation of force majeure clause to protect the real estate was the right during the lockdown? Also, was it sufficient enough? And are there any other waivers offered by the government for to scum the pressure on the real estate industry?
Well, we are grappling with a catastrophic pandemic, right? Where businesses across the world are witnessing their worst losses. And a lot of companies are also staring at bankruptcies, right? So one of the things to note in this period is that there is a whole magnitude of uncertainty, and consequently supply chain has been disrupted, right? So looking at it from a real estate point of view, a lot of developers have faced disruption in the supply chain, where raw materials are not available, and the supply of raw materials has been severely impacted. In addition, because of about 90% of people working in real estate in India, which is about 50 to 60 million, tends to be unskilled or semi-skilled, and a lot of the migrant labor has not been available, right? So when you look at what the definition of force majeure is, right? Force majeure is an event or an effect which can neither be anticipated or nor controlled. And if you look at what the term encompasses, it includes acts of nature, right? So, for example, when there's a flood or a hurricane, and acts of people as well. For instance, riots, strikes, and wars, right? And typically during a force majeure event, right, underlying contract becomes impossible to perform, right? So while I'm not an expert on the Indian Contracts Act, which deals with contracts in general, right? It has become impossible to fulfill a lot of contractual obligations at this point in time. So from a personal perspective, I don't see anything wrong in invoking the force majeure event. In fact, if you look at how the government has dealt with it, I think the government put out an advisory in the month of March saying that if the supply chain becomes disrupted and it's impossible to fulfill certain things, then people can invoke the force majeure clause. And in fact, the Real Estate Regulatory Act, under the real estate, developers have been allowed an additional 6 months to deliver projects, right? Because with the disruption in supply chain and also with labor non-availability, it's going to be very, very difficult to deliver projects sometime.
Yes, I think the government decision on the temporary reduction or waiver of GST for the sectors elevated stress on the developers and helped home buyers get timely deliver of home was quite effective,
Right, right.
right? Yeah. All right. So, what is the status of residential market and housing sales right now in the metropolitan cities as compared to last year response?
But as I had mentioned a short while earlier, we just released a real estate report called Real Insight from Proptiger, where we have seen that in there has been a significant decline in new launches and decline in sales by about 70 to 80% in most of the tier one cities across the country. Uh, at the same time, we haven't really seen prices decline that significantly, right? There will be some price correction in the market, but I really don't see real estate prices going down by around 20 to 25% as people are suggesting. In most cities, the prices have either gone up by a couple of percentage points, remained flat, or have come down by a couple of percentage points. The two cities which have seen increase in real estate prices across the country is Ahmedabad and Hyderabad, where prices have increased by about 6 to 7% in certain micro markets, owing to like a lot of end user demand, right? So over the next couple of quarters, we are likely to see a slowdown in new launches. I think given the economic uncertainties, I think developers are likely to slow down in new launches. Uh, and in terms of sales, if we find a cure for the coronavirus and if there is a vaccine, uh, you know, towards the end of the year, we may well see an increase in demand, particularly in the second half of the year. Right? So overall, things have been a little slow in the real estate sector, both in terms of supply as well as in demand.
Absolutely. I know, so there's been a decline in the launches as well, and there's a minimal growth in the sector. Well, moving forward, what is your message to the people who are hesitant to invest in a real estate right now?
Well, I think real estate has several things to offer, right? So first of all, as I said, our personal
Mm,
uh, opinion, my personal opinion, and the survey that we did for with about 3,000 buyers across India has shown that about 50% of potential home buyers do intend to continue with their home buying decision over the next 6 months. Uh, the second positive thing that we are seeing, as I said, is that there has not been any value erosion in real estate, and prices have not increased. While prices have not increased significantly, there has been very little value erosion in real estate. And in fact, during this period of time, there are developers who are offering sweeteners to potential buyers in the form of price protection plan. There are flexible payment plans. So, for example, a branded developer like Godrej had come out with an offer where you pay 10% on down and 90% on possession of an under construction property. The third thing is that it's a very, very stable asset to invest in, uh,
mm,
right? And as I said before, about a third of the people whom we surveyed thought that real estate is the safest asset to invest in, followed by gold and stock. And we are also seeing that interest rates in real estate have dipped, right?
mm,
And it's almost at a 15-year low. So
mm.
considering all that, I would really encourage people uh, to uh, to look at real estate very seriously and make their buying decision.
Very well said, sir. I must say you have a very positive outlook. Yeah, all right. So thank you, Mr. Mani, for your wonderful inputs. Now I would like to ask you one question for your young audience
Right.
who love you and look up to you. What was the biggest challenge you faced while studying at the Stanford University, and how did you overcome it?
Well, when I graduated from Stanford, I was designated as an R.J. Miller Scholar, which is awarded to the top 10% in the class. While I'd gained a lot of international exposure during my days at Citibank, I had not lived outside India for a prolonged period of time. I'd typically made business trips that lasted up to a month or two. So the you know the I was doing pretty well at Citibank when I decided to go to Stanford for my MBA. And Stanford is one of the toughest business schools to get into globally, and it's highly renowned in the world. Uh,
And
and
it's not easy though.
yeah, and when I attended my first day at Stanford, I found that we had people from about 40 countries across the world. And there were people who were a lot more accomplished than I was, right? So there were people who were like Olympic gold medalists, there are people who are
Ah,
like opera singers, there are people who had held like senior posts in the US Treasury Department. And I was going back to school after 8 years of a hectic professional life. So for me, the challenge was adjusting to uh, a new environment, adjusting to a new country, a country where people spoke English differently from the way I did, right? And also the prospect of challenging academics after 8 years in the professional world. Not to mention that I was back to shoestring budget as a student, right? Given that I did not have a earning for about 2 years, so I literally plowed all my savings into school.
mm,
So for me, the challenge was, will I be able to do well academically, and will I be able to secure a good job when I get out of school?
mm,
And that challenge was also heightened by the fact that we had 9/11, the attack on the World Trade Center in 2001, which made it very difficult for an immigrant like me
mm.
to secure a great job. But I was fortunate, and I think God blessed me adequately that I came through the challenge with flying colors.
Wow. And since you said that 8 years of gap, what made you join again to the school?
Well, a couple of things. So I had gone to IIM Kolkata, where I had done my postgraduate diploma in management, which was an MBA in India. Right. So at the time when I went to business school in India, IIM was a fabulous experience. I studied in a class of great intellects, right? The quality of students at IIM in India has to be seen to be believed,
Mm,
right? But I had gone to business school without any understanding of what it took to work in a corporate environment,
mm, mm,
right? So I don't think I derived too much out of my stint in business school in India, because my fellow classmates were also largely out of undergraduate school. There were not too many people
mm,
with solid work experience, right?
mm,
And consequently, a lot of the management theories that we used to discuss,
mm,
used to be theoretical in nature when it came to
mm,
discussion,
mm,
because a lot of us in class had never worked in a company before,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
So after 8 years in Citibank, working in an international environment,
mm,
I thought it was the right time for me to step back and look at my learning, take a break from professional life, and also be able to share my experiences with an international group of students. And I did not apply to too many business schools in the US. I primarily applied to Stanford
mm,
because I also loved Silicon Valley, and that was a time when Silicon Valley was booming and is still booming. So I wanted to be close to Silicon Valley, work with entrepreneurs. And also, I had a personal reason because my family was largely in the US, so I wanted to emigrate and spend some time with my family as well.
Wow, great to know. And lastly, what CSR activities, housing.com, Proptiger, Makan.com, you're there everywhere. So what CSR activities are you involved in?
Yeah, I think we have been involved with a couple of NGOs, right? Uh, I forget the names of all the NGOs that we have worked with, but I think one of them is I think Habitat for Humanity, right? And so we have made like monetary contributions as a company, and in fact, a number of our employees have volunteered. And for example, I think we did an activity where we helped like paint people's homes,
Wow.
right, for them to move in. So we have done, I think, a fair bit, in terms of CSR contribution to society, and we've done a lot of contribution also to during the current pandemic event, and we are looking forward to doing more.
How amazing is that? Thank you for doing such noble cause and spreading happiness and giving smiles to so many people around. All
Thank
right. So now moving quickly to some rapid fire questions. And I know this is a very surprise to you, which I didn't let you know about it. Well, so who inspires you the most?
you. A lot of people have inspired me. In fact, my current manager, Dhruv Agarwala, has inspired me a lot. What inspires me about him is his ability to stay calm in any situation.
Wow.
Right. So he's the CEO of a rapidly growing startup which has faced a challenging environment over the last few years. But I've never seen him uh, lose his cool. He's always smiling, and uh, and he leads the company with such grace and with a lot of kindness and compassion. So he has inspired me. There have been a lot of people who have inspired me over the years, and one particular person who I owe a lot, who's Susan Decker, who was my manager at Yahoo. She was chief financial officer at Yahoo and later on president of the company, and has featured in the list of the most powerful women in business, which has been which is released by the Forbes magazine for many years. She was personally recruited by Steve Jobs to serve as a director on Pixar films, and by Warren Buffett,
Wow.
where she serves on the board of Berkshire Hathaway. She has served on the boards of Intel, Costco, Cisco. Uh, and there are a lot of lessons that I've learned about her from her. The first thing is I've learned how important it is to have a solid work ethic, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, right. The second is how important it is to have solid personal integrity. And I've seen Sue make a number of decisions,
Hmm.
and she always put the organization ahead of herself,
Hmm.
right? And always did whatever was good for the organization.
Hmm.
Uh, I've also learned a lot about finance and the ability to learn to link finance to business and the ability to link business to strategy, and
Hmm.
also learned how important data is to making decisions in an organization, and how to look at everything from a data perspective. I've learned a lot from her, both as a professional as well as personal. And every day there's something I do in my workspace which embodies some of what I have learned from her. So I've been truly fortunate and honored to work for such a person.
Wow, that's so inspiring. I think I'm getting inspired now and I need to meet her as well. All right. So, what's the greatest risk you have ever taken?
Uh, the greatest risk I've taken is probably join housing.com, right? So I was in the US, and uh, while uh, I was doing fairly well in the US, and I had some personal reasons to return back to India to take care of my ailing mother. I took on the responsibility as a chief financial officer of housing.
Hmm.
So housing was truly fantastic as a concept, had great technology and had the best website amongst all the real estate portals in India.
Hmm.
But it was going through a fairly tough
Yes.
crisis. The founder had left housing, and there were a lot of people who had predicted that housing would die,
Hmm.
right? But I joined a company during its stage of crisis, and had a great team out there, and together we managed to turn around the business. And today, housing is one of the most widely regarded marketplaces, not only in India, but all across the world.
Wow, remarkable. So, what is the most memorable moment of your life?
Well, there have been several memorable moments in my life so far, but I think the most memorable moment for me was opening the admission letter from Stanford and
Wow.
finding that you had not only been admitted to the school, but the school had waived 1 year's fees and had also provided a fellowship for me. I had taken the risk of giving my GMAT and writing my business school essays and writing and applying to business school after 8 years, as I mentioned, in the professional world, and to have secured admission and walk through the halls of such a prestigious institution was very memorable. So when I was designated the R.J. Miller Scholar, I was really proud of my achievement because I had secured a perfect GPA, during my second year at business school, and I'm told that very few people have achieved it in the history of the business school. So that was truly memorable.
Wow. And I'm sure you're going to cherish this moment forever. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Uh, well, I think one of the things that I should have done is I've always been keen to be an entrepreneur, right? And and I've had like several good ideas which have today been have become great companies. Of course, ideation is just one part of entrepreneurship. Execution uh, is really important for any idea to succeed. But I do wish I had taken the plunge and become an entrepreneur myself. Right, soon after I graduated from business school, because that was a time when I think a lot of people had started off companies. Facebook and Twitter were just starting to take off. And I just feel that I should have become an entrepreneur myself. So that's something that I would always regret. Uh, right? I choose to pursue a professional life with startups as well as corporates. But being an entrepreneur is something that I would have enjoyed. But I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of startups, and even today, I'm very fortunate that my company, Housing Makan and Proptiger, brings out the entrepreneurial spirit in me. And we encourage almost every employee of the company to be an entrepreneur and contribute with new ideas. Right. So, being an entrepreneur is something that I
Right.
would have encouraged.
But as they say, you still have time to do your and live your dreams. And
Oh, it's
yeah,
never late to
it's
get
never
started.
late. And
Never.
yeah, and never say never. And also, you can, yeah, and you can also mentor many other entrepreneurs out there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Trying to do my
So
best.
yeah. So I mean, with your ideas, they can, I mean, you can empower so many other, especially women.
Sure.
Thank you. All right. So, place where you love being the most.
Uh, in terms of a place,
Yes. Anywhere, it could be Himalayas, it could be home, it could be anything.
well, I think over the years I've traveled. I've traveled to close to about 45, 50 countries.
Oh, wow.
Right. A lot of it has been professional. Some of it has been personal. And for me, I particularly love Africa. I think it's got
Wildlife.
great beauty. And I love wildlife and elephants in particular. So for me, that I really love being in the jungles, the forest on a safari, and be very, very close to nature. Other than that, I love places with a lot of history, and I particularly enjoyed being in Turkey and in Istanbul, because I think it's a place that has a lot of history,
Mm.
and has a lot of a modern touch to it, right? And it's an extremely tolerant country. So I've loved being in Istanbul as well. I visited places like the Topkapi palaces and the Blue Mosque many times. But I always find something delightful as I visit them.
Wow. And your favorite hobby?
I don't get too much of time outside of work, but I particularly like classical music, Indian classical music. I've been a practitioner of classical music early on, right, and during my teen and early adult years. But I still love listening to music, and I find that it makes me a very, very different person. It makes me forget any challenges or any worries that I have.
Wow. And the last question, if you were to be the PM for a day, what is the first thing you would do?
In this environment or otherwise.
Otherwise,
Uh, well, I think fortunate to have a prime minister who I've heard from media sources is extremely hardworking, and who's extremely passionate about the country. I think one of the things I would do a little differently, particularly during this crisis, is while the government has done, has provided a lot of stimulus, right? I think it's important for the country to provide some stimulus on the demand side, right? I think over the last year or so, whether you look at investment growth, or consumption, or export, it's been pretty tepid, right? So I think while the government may be worried about fiscal deficit and net debt and debt levels in the country, I think if I were the prime minister, what I would do is I would sign up for a huge demand stimulus and provide money in the hands of consumers, because I think it's very, very important to also kind of pay attention to the revival of the economy. So providing demand stimulus is going to be key for the economy to revive going forward. Other than that, there are plenty of challenges to deal with. I think one of the things that everyone I mean every country, right from the most developed countries such as US, is that the entire world has been caught by non-availability of adequate healthcare infrastructure.
yes,
So that's another thing that the government should focus on developing. I think we have schemes like Ayushman Bharat, which are great, but it really pains me to see that there are people who are being turned away in some places because of the non-availability of hospital beds. So I think focusing on healthcare infrastructure would also be key and would help the country in the times to come.
very well said. And I also personally feel education and healthcare is something which every country should provide free, but on contrary, it comes with a cost.
Right.
Well, so what message would you want to give to our platform social tables?
Well, I think Kalpana, personally, I think you're doing some wonderful work. I think you're doing so much to help people and so much to help women entrepreneurs in particular. So I think the message I want to convey to people is to never lose hope, to never despair. Life always has its ups and downs. And everybody has moments that they can look forward to in their life. So one should persevere, never give up, put in a lot of hard work, and be very passionate about whatever you do. Right.
Absolutely.
So I think that is very, very important to pursue your passion in life. I think money and all of that is important. But if you pursue whatever you like with a passion and do it very well, the money and recognition and fame would automatically follow.
Very
So I think people need to be positive about life. Pandemics like this, it's unfortunate that these things are happening, but resilience is very, very important in life, right?
absolutely.
Uh, and in fact, I'm actually reminded of a quote by Vincent van Gogh, who said, "If you hear your mind voice tell you that you cannot paint, simply take a brush and paint, and there you can paint." So it's very important to be self-confident and be very resilient.
Thank you so much, sir. And a word of, before we conclude, a few word of wisdom or advice you would like to give our audience?
Right, as I said, right, very important to be true to oneself. Uh, be out there with confidence. Be honest. Be respectful. And while all of us have tremendous want to achieve tremendous success in both personal as well as professional life, we need to have an underlying values and moral framework that we should never compromise on. And also that also includes being a good citizen of this world and of this country.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much. And
Thank
let
you
me
so
take
much
an
for having me.
opportunity to give you a vote of thanks. It's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks to Mr. Mani, who, despite his busy schedule, has found time to grace his special interaction with us. We are extremely grateful to you for sharing your words of encouragement and giving us valuable inputs. Your eminent presence has indeed made the interaction a memorable one, and we unite to thank you from the bottom of our heart for your kindness, interest, and support. We wish
No,
you
you're
all the very best for your future endeavors and stay safe.
most welcome, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Kalpana.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.